One of my favorite products to use when I'm at home creating are stencils. And Stampin' Up's stencils, known as decorative masks, are beautiful. And last month they released new ones called Butterflies and Flowers. So this past weekend I pulled them out and had to play with them, and I incorporated heat embossing with them, and I loved the results. So I wanted to share this with you so you can try it at home too. So let's start stamping. I'm going to start off by showing you these beautiful new decorative masks, the butterflies and flowers. So these two, the flowers and the butterflies, I'm actually not using on today's cards, but I guarantee you I will be having a video using them because they are just so cool and I have lots of ideas for them. So we have the daisies, kind of like the daisy flowers. Here's another flower one, not using that today either, but I'm gonna come back to that another day. And this one is probably my favorite. I love that pattern. And then this one's really pretty as well. So these are the two that I'm going to be using today. And I'm going to show you a couple different ways I'm using them. And the first way that I'm going to share with you is very standard, very simple, but for those of you who have never used stencils before, then I'm going to show you how easy they are to use. So I'm just using some washi tape that I happen to have lying around. And my paper, actually I'm going to get some paper that's cut a little bit wider than that. So I'm just using basic white 8.5 by 11, and I'm going to cut it down at the 5.5 mark. I'm going to line up the corner onto my white, that way when I tape it down with the washi tape I can get the edge of my mask as well as the paper to hold it down. Okay, so I am going to be using my blending brushes from Stampin' Up. I love these, and when I'm done here today, because I've already been making cards and I didn't clean these because I'm going to be using the same color in today's video demonstration, but when I'm done today I'm just going to put these underneath the tap and clean them, and then I just set them to dry. You can get ones for each color of ink. I don't. This is what they look like when they're brand new, but honestly I've just been using these 6, and I just clean them, dry them, and use them with whatever colors. Speaking of colors, here's the color I'm going to be using today, the colors I should say. I'm using Gorgeous Grape, Melon Mambo, Old Olive, and Pumpkin Pie and Bermuda Bay. So all of these except for this one are the old style ink pads, and then this is the new style. I'm going to, well, it's not new anymore. They've been around for quite a while. That's the beauty of Stampin' Up! Ink pads, is they last a long time. Just get your re-inker and you can keep re-inking them. All right, I'm starting with my Gorgeous Grape, and I'm gonna work, I'm just gonna work from the bottom and work my way up to the top. Okay, and I'm gonna start off on the scrap paper and move my brush into the paper. That way if it's super dark, I'm not going to get like a splotch. It'll be a nice even layer of color. So that's beautiful. If you want to keep your background soft, you wouldn't add any more ink, of course. If you want it to be more vibrant and bold, you would keep adding ink. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to add some more, and then you can actually work it up and let it go with that gradient look. That's super pretty too. See, it's a little bit darker here. That's fine, but I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit more over there. All right, that's it for my Gorgeous Grape. Next, I'm moving in with my Bermuda Bay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to start here and work my way down, because there's going to be some ink sitting on top of this stencil, and that will muddy up the blue, and I don't want to do that. Ask me how I learned that. I learned that when I was doing this the other day. I'm like, that blue's not really coming out very blue. It's because I started down below and it was picking up that purple. So Learn from my mistakes. Okay, now I'm going to work it down right into that purple layer. Don't you just love purple and blue together? I do. I just love it. All right, next color. Next color is going to be Old Olive. My all-time very favorite green. Doing this exactly the same. And I know I'm going to be putting on 2 more colors, so I'm just keeping that in mind depending on how high and low I go with my inks. And again, I'm working it down into that blue, so you get the blue and the green on those flowers. Love. Love, love, love. All right. Some pumpkin pie. You can see I just re-inked it, so I'm just going to kind of blend it in with my blending brush. Start high and then work your way down. And I'm just going lightly back and forth because this holds quite a bit of ink. So you don't have to put too much on it, and then just work it down. You can always add more ink. Better to start with a light touch and add more. I like it, I like it. And last color, Melon Mambo. And then work it down the orange. It's always exciting when you take the mask off. Okay. Ta-da! Isn't that pretty? So there's a bunch of different things you can do with this background. You can use it as is for your cards, or you can do some heat embossing. So the first thing I'm going to do though is just show you one of the cards that I've made just with this background. And what I did is I stamped my sentiment with Versamark and embossed it with black embossing powder. And then I used a die cut, my little bumblebee. I'll have a list of the supplies on my blog, and the link for that will be in the description below. And this little bow, guys, I didn't have ribbon that was quite the right color, or it would be too wide. I'm like, oh my goodness, what am I gonna do? That's a little tiny scrap piece of paper, just a tiny scrap piece of paper. And all I did is, let me just show you. Hang on, let me get my bone folder. Let me get a little scrap of paper. Okay, I just grabbed this paper out of my scrap basket. Another pretty beautiful designer series paper. Oh, that's a little bit too thin. Hang on. Hang on. Okay, that's perfect. You can do this with cardstock too. It's just, this is actually designer series paper, and so I thought I'd use designer series paper. But what you want to do, whether you're using DSP or cardstock, is you want to take your bone folder and go back and forth like this, because what you're doing is you're breaking down the paper fibers, which makes your paper more pliable. And then all I did, what did I do is I just made like my bunny ears. And of course, now that I'm on camera, oh no, there we go. So you just make a bow, just like so, and then just kind of puff up these little loops. And then the cool thing is you can, just like if you're decorating your gifts, you know, you can just curl those little ends there. And look how pretty! You now have a little paper bow. So that's what I did here. All right, moving on to the next mat. I'm going to do it exactly the same way, so I will speed this up for you. And then these I will just wipe off and rinse in the bathroom sink, and then just let them. And then I will just wipe these off. You can either use baby wipes, or you can just use a little bit of soap and water, and then set them aside to dry, because again, they'll have ink on top of them, and then you're going to get ink on your fingers as well. So you want to make sure you clean your hands before you do any more stamping, because otherwise you're going to get inky fingers on spots you don't want inky fingers. Okay, so let me show you a couple cards that I made using this pattern. Here's one here. Very simple but very pretty. All I did is just cut this into strips to get multiple cards. Just layered it on some black cardstock. This is actually cut from another piece of stencil background. Just use a little die cut. That's all I did. Very, very pretty, very simple. Here's another one that I made using the same background. Again, just a strip because I wanted to get multiple cards out of one piece. And my butterflies, I also stamped on top of a stencil piece. I stamped it with Blackberry Bliss because that's the color of my card base. And then I took my first marking pad and tapped them on top, covered them with my clear embossing powder, heat set it, and then cut it with my dies. So these are stamped right on top of the stencil piece, and then covered and embossed and clear and die cut. And that is so cool because they are incorporating the colors in the background onto their wings. So you can see the pink and the orange, the blue and the purple, and then the green. I love how that turned out. Okay, I'm going to show you another way you can use these. I am going to do emboss resist with my decorative mask here. So I'm just taking my Versamark ink pad. There is a little bit of residue ink, if you will, on this pad. That's okay, not going to worry about it. And I'm going to emboss this with white powder. Now, if you don't have white embossing powder, you can definitely use a clear embossing powder. You just won't have it stark white if your ink pad looks like mine. But it'll still be beautiful. It'll still be gorgeous. And you can do this in gold. You can do this in silver. Oh my goodness, I kind of want to do that in this video. I am going to. And then I will show you the finished card that I made that I did with white. I'm gonna heat set them now. So honestly, that is pretty to use. Just cut that and put that on your card, don't you think? So elegant, and I love it. But I'm gonna add some color, and I'm gonna do again the same way that I did previously on my other stencils, but let's turn it this way and go landscape, just to be wild and crazy. I'm gonna do it in the same order of colors. Great, so didn't give myself much room for the orange, but pretty darn pretty, right? Pretty darn pretty. I am going to take just a paper towel and just wipe that, because if you're not familiar with the emboss resist technique, it's called that because the ink will sit on top of that embossing and it will resist it. And look how pretty that is. So I'm going to quickly make that into a card. So I'm going to cut this down. Just going to trim off the excess, and then I'll, let's see, let's just do, oh, I don't want to lose all that pink. So we'll do that. I want it to be 4 by 5 1/4. So there's my 4. And we will take that much off, spin around and take that much off, and I won't be wasting this. I will be using this on another card somewhere, somehow, because I don't like to waste my stuff, especially when it's so pretty like that. All right, let me grab a card base. We just happen to have a Bermuda Bay. Now, what am I going to put on the front? What am I going to put on the front? That is the question. I'm going to grab a punch because it's quick and easy. And I'm going to grab a piece of scrap basic white that's just sitting on my desk. And, oh, we have a new stamp set, guys. It's called Here Together, and it comes with dies, and I'm really, really loving this a lot. And I will have the link for this listed down below and on my blog also. So I'm going to use Love Changes Everything. No, I'm not. I lied. I'm going to use Every Act of Kindness Changes the World because I really, really love that sentiment. I love them all, but that's what I want to use. So I'm going to take this scrap piece here instead, and I'm going to take my embossing buddy. And going to stamp that right on top of the orange and also emboss that in gold. Okay, and I'm going to take my blending brush with the blue and I'm going to add some color around this and also do emboss resist on this piece. And some purple. And make sure I got the right brush happening here. And again, wipe off the excess. Okay, and bring my punch in. So I'm going to show you a little trick. I'm going to take my scissors and cut this right in half and take this glue and just put a little bit on the top, a little bit on the bottom. And I'm just going to offset this a little bit. Kind of want a little bit of ribbon on before I stick that down. So it's a toss up of using my fine art ribbon, or what's this one called? The glittered organdy ribbon. I'm not knowing. Let me see. I think the first one shows up more. So let's cut some of that. I'm also going to grab a glue dot just to make sure this ribbon stays in place where I want it to. And to finish the card, I'm just adding a couple of iridescent rhinestones. So there's my finished card on the fly. I love using my stencils with that emboss resist technique. So let me show you the ones that I did using white embossing powder. Here's one here. Again, very simple, very pretty card. I did some white embossing, stamped and punched out my little daisies, and just added my little strip of my emboss resist stencil piece and a little bit of ribbon. And that was that card. And then I have another one somewhere. Here we go. Very simple again. Just put a strip on top of some white, a little bit of ribbon trim, a couple die cuts. Very simple. A lot of cards out of this one piece when you just cut it up. So there we go. That is the emboss resist technique using the decorative masks. But wait, there's more. There is more. So I'm bringing this piece back in. Now, imagine that I didn't lift this off. I did my sponging and the mask is still on. So I'm just gonna put the mask back on. Bringing back my Versamark ink pad, I'm going to cover this whole thing again, just like I did on the last card, except the last card I didn't add any of the ink first, right? I just did my Versamark right on top of my cardstock and then the white. But this time I'm adding my Versamark ink pad on top of that ink. Now I'm going to grab my clear powder. So when you're heat embossing, friends, especially if you're using you have a big piece like this, you want to kind of move your paper like this and just really make sure that you've got all that powder melted. Okay, so look how pretty that is with that beautiful background all embossed in clear. Okay, so let me show you a card that I made using this. Now I had some scrap pieces of our Marvelous Designer Series paper that you can get for free right now through Celebration. And so I just trimmed it up and glued it onto a piece of basic white cardstock and ran it through my embossing folder. So I got that fun texture and I went with colors that were very similar to what's in this piece. And then I punched out that little heart. Now, do you remember this card? That's where that little heart came from. That belongs there. Then I thought, what am I going to put in the middle? I kind of want to do something different. I added our little sea glass embellishments, and I colored some with our Stampin' blends so that they would kind of coordinate as well. I just wanted something different. I didn't want to just put in a rhinestone. I kind of wanted, like, you know, to have that, you know, the crystals, the healing crystals kind of look going on, especially since I've got the word breathe on the front of the card. I thought having some little healing crystals in the middle of the heart would be fun, and then that's what I stamped on the inside. Isn't that fun? And just using a tiny little strip. So again, a piece like this goes a long way when you're making your cards. So I have one more really fun way to show you what you can do with this clear embossed piece. This is so cool, guys. So cool. I'm going to grab this paper towel. Now you could use a blending brush, but I don't want to use a blending brush when I can use a piece of paper towel, because I'm going to put on a layer of black. A layer of black, guys. And this is a new ink pad. If you saw my last video, you know I got a new ink pad. Very excited. Okay, now before I do this, I can feel some powder. So I'm just wiping that off because I do not want any clear embossing powder in my new ink pad. All right, now watch this. This is like the emerging color technique. Some of you watching this may be kind of appalled that I'm covering up all this beautiful background with black, but just you wait, my friends. Just you wait. Now, you don't have to do black. You can use a blue, any dark color, but the black is pretty darn stunning. And the darker you go, the more vibrant that stenciled embossed design will be. Okay, now I'm actually going to grab a baby wipe to wipe off that ink. Okay, and I'm just going to do a light touch because I don't want this to be I don't want to make my paper wet. Look at those colors emerging. Now I'm going to take a clean piece of my paper towel and just wipe that off. And then look how gorgeous that is. How pretty is that, right? So pretty. But wait, there's more. I was so excited when I thought about doing the next step, and it turned out really, really good. So I'm going to share that with you. I am now going to take the same Versamark ink pad and cover the whole thing again. I am going to emboss on top of what I've already embossed. And this is going to give another cool dimension to this piece. Listen, when I said I had fun stamping and playing this weekend, I mean I had fun. I cannot wait to do this video to share some of the ways that I came up with. May not be new. Maybe someone else had already thought of some of these, like what I'm doing now, but it was new to me, and I wowed myself. So I wanted to share this with you. I'm bringing back the clear. I'm going to pour that on. Guys, look at that. Look at that, my goodness. I mean, come on. Come on. Am I the only one wowed by that? Like, I just love this so much. Beautiful way to get those colors emerging, and then have that black and just make it pop. Oh my goodness. So I'm going to save this for another card another day or some project, but I will show you the card that I made using that. And this is using that new stamp set I just showed you, the All Together stamp set. So I stamped the hands and colored them with our new neutral tones Stampin' Blends. And again, the link for that will be in the description down below, because you can actually get them as a bundle, and these come with dies. So I should say you can get a collection. This can come as a bundle with the coordinating dies, which is how I cut out the hands, and you can also get our new Stampin' Blend markers. My goodness, so much to tell you guys. And I didn't emboss on this because I wanted that clear background to just pop. And so that was the only embossing. I didn't emboss any of this. I added a little scrap of the Marvelous paper behind the heart to make that pop out. Just a little strip with the sentiment. Simple card. So pretty. And then, of course, iridescent rhinestones, right? Because they're my new favorite thing. I didn't want to put a rhinestone of any kind in the center because I didn't want to take away from the background and keep the heart open. And she's got nail polish on too. Very, very fun. And I just love this technique. Well guys, as you can see, I just love using Stampin' Up's decorative masks. I think stencils are so versatile, and the sky really is the limit with what you can do with them, and I was very excited to make this video for you. I do hope you were inspired and that you can't wait to try some of these techniques in your craft room too. If you haven't already, I encourage you to hit the subscribe button and the little bell next to it so you're notified every time I upload a new video. Thanks so much, friends. I appreciate you. Take care and happy stamping.